Hi everyone. Hi
Hi,
Julia.
hi Anna. Hi everyone.
I love visiting you in your studio, even if it's online.
Yeah, you're very welcome, of course.
I
I
bet,
wish you were here.
yes, I bet everyone watching us wishes they could visit you offline, in person, in your studio. It's sure worth doing, right? Seeing your studio in person, in real life, inspires even me to
Even me.
to pick up some paint or markers or anything really and start sketching. But I've got a
Yes.
question for you today. We're getting ready, as you hopefully know, Julia. We're getting ready
I
for
know, yeah.
the workshop, our
Accidentally.
travel sketching workshop, which for which we will need watercolors and fine liners. And so the question I often get in the mail in the days coming up to workshops is what kind of paper should we be using? And
Yes.
also, more importantly, when you say, well, cold press paper or hot press paper, it often doesn't make a difference, doesn't mean much to beginners. And
Yes,
so
yes.
I wanted to see if you could show us today the actual difference between, well, cold press and hot press paper, and how they differ in terms of textures or how watercolors work with them and fine
Yes.
liners.
Yes, that's a
But
good question.
before we do that, I also want to remind those of you watching us today that we've got a post on our blog about the difference between hot and cold press watercolor paper, what it all means, and just generally, we explain the different information that you get on watercolor paper, different surface types, materials, and other important things that you should
Know about paper.
know about, yes,
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
be able to choose watercolor
The
paper.
right paper. Yeah.
This is for all information like that, for all blog posts. That's juliahenze.com/blog, and you'll find lots of resources on anything
Everything,
really,
markers,
everything.
gouache, watercolors. Yes,
Yes.
definitely.
But today, Julia has chosen a very special kind of watercolor, and it's a brand name that seriously comes up in all of our workshops, and it's not Winsor Newton.
No.
And so the name is
Baohong.
Baohong. Okay,
Yeah.
so Julia, I'll let you tell us all about, this
About this
paper and what
paper.
you're going to show us.
Yes. Yes. We talk about this paper that much, and this paper to use actually, especially because um, uh, you often can get quite large sheets of this paper, and you can cut them in pieces and use it for your smaller sketches. And it's much cheaper than when you get a block of paper, especially when it's glued. It's really expensive, and there are for a lot of people it's just yeah, a kind of issue to paint on very expensive paper. So this is a really good solution, I think. Buy Baohong paper, cut it in pieces, and use it for practicing, for example. But today we will take a look, as you said, at different kinds of this paper, because there are three sorts. There is hot press, there is cold press, and there's a rough. And
before we
we
do
will see.
that, Julia,
Yes.
I'd just like to remind everyone to like this video and
And
subscribe to Julia's
subscribe.
channel, and also let us know in the comments if you've tried Baohong paper and loved it or not.
And yes, yes. And which one did you like the most? So, and I've got this sample set of three three sorts of this paper, and let's see what it exactly is. I also have, it's, by the way, it's recommended by masters, by very famous watercolor painters, and I don't know what this is.
Let's
No
figure
idea.
it out later.
Yes. So these are the three sorts of this paper, and as you can see, they all have different texture. This one is very smooth. This one is a little bit rougher, and this one is rough. So this is hot press, cold press, and rough paper. And let's start with watercolor, and I will paint on all this watercolor. I hope it will work like this, or maybe I should do it like this. I start with hot press watercolor paper, and I will apply just a plain wash first, and then I will do actually the same, a wash, but a gradual one. And let's use orange color, for example. And oh, and apply it like this. And then I will do the same. It's not the same, it will be another wash, of course, and it will exist from different colors. And let's begin with also orange, and then red to it. And so we will see how all these different sorts behave. Okay, so now we can let it dry for a minute, and I do the same with cold press paper. For cold press paper, we need more water because it's more textured. The texture is already quite rough, so we need more water to create a good wash. Okay, it looks very nice. And the next one will be even more water. Look at this. And more paint. Okay, add some red color and the darkest. Yeah, looks great, I think. Okay, and the last one will be the rough paper. again. Start with the orange paint and add a little bit more paint to it, more pigment. Okay, and now do the gradient. And the rougher the paper, the more water you need to apply your paint. Okay, so it's still a little bit wet, but we can look at these washes and compare them. And we can see that the hot press paper, I don't really like the washes on this paper because they are not very smooth. What do you think, Anna? Can you see the difference?
Well,
We
I
also have
definitely
some...
can see the difference, but it's not just that they're not smooth, they just look very flat.
Also, yes, definitely, it looks very flat. And we also have some cauliflower thing here. And it's because I think the paint, because this is very smooth paper, the paint can get in the paper that less well than in this other kinds of the rougher paper.
So hot press paper does not absorb the water.
Not that much. Not
Mm-hmm.
that much. Yes. So, and this is a reason that I don't like that much. However, I think this plain wash looks okay. No, not bad. So I would use it for gradient washes, I think. But
Would
these two,
you hang on? Would you, with this hot press with the smooth paper, would you rather use it for gouache than?
yes, I think so. Yes, because gouache, you can apply gouache to almost any kind of paper as long as it's thick enough.
All right.
Yes, and not too smooth, of course. I mean, not glossy or something. Okay, so let's try our fine liners on this paper.
So now fine liners. I can see that
Yes.
they are Winsor Newton fine liners, but as I understand, well, really any brand will work great
Yes.
as long as they are waterproof for your
Yes.
sketches.
Yes. It depends on your technique, of course. If you first apply fine liners and then watercolor, then they should be waterproof, of course. Yes, very important, by the way. Otherwise, you have a kind of grayish painting. It's not very beautiful. So I have here two different thicknesses. I have a thinner one. The thinnest one, it's 0.1, and then a thicker one, and the thickest one. And I will try out on this paper. And I start with hot press, and it's so smooth. I'm sure it will work great on this paper. Yeah, it's like mixed media paper. It's, you know, when you apply fine liners on smooth paper, then they appear very beautifully, very crispy, great. Now let's take a look at the next one, hot press. We'll start with the thinnest one again. It's not the thinnest one. And okay, you can see it. And the thickest one. I think when we look at this too, then these lines are much crispier, right? They look much better. Okay, let's try the last one. Rough paper. Still, you can use it. The thinnest fine liner is quite good. The thicker one, not that much. That's weird. And the thickest one, oh, that's not the thickest. It appears the best. Yeah. Okay, let's compare them all. So I think this is really the best paper for fine liner. So if you use fine liner more than watercolor, and you don't care that much about these kind of things, color blurs, then I think that's a really great paper for you. It also works okay on cold press paper, and a little bit less obvious, less good lines on the rough paper. The thicker one works good, but the thinner ones, not that much. Okay, now let's take a look at colored pencils. And colored pencils on hot press paper. Again, the smoothest one. Yeah, there is some texture. Great, not that much, but could be enough. Again, a line, more texture. This is cold press. Yes, that's great. Beautiful texture. And the last one is rough. And I think this is I think this is kind of good texture, but a little bit too much. I honestly love this one most. It's textured, but not too much. And I know from experience that when you use colored pencils or any other pencils on rough paper, then you can you can sharpen your pencil like every 5 minutes. So yeah, I think I still love cold press paper most.
Okay, you know what I think, Julia?
Yes,
think...
I'm very curious. I'm very
I'll tell you
curious.
anyways.
Yeah.
But I think we have a problem. It seems like fine liners work best on hot press.
Yes.
Watercolors work best on rough. And pencils work best on cold press. But
I know what you want to say.
hang on, in all your workshops, you use watercolors, pencils, and fine liners. So what do we do? What's the solution? What's the one paper that you recommend? For example, for this upcoming workshop, the travel sketching workshop, where you'll be showing a watercolor plus fine liners plus pencils technique.
I would recommend cold press paper. First of all, because it's my favorite, but also because it's just a really great paper for painting. And the technique that we will use in this workshop is more about painting and less about fine liner. By the way, one quick note, when you use the fine liner on top of watercolor, then it appears much better. You can see it here. It's much crispier because you have already a layer on top of the this rough paper, so it gets a little bit smoother.
Okay,
So,
and the pencils too?
and the pencils too. So I'm sure this is really the best paper for our workshop, for upcoming workshop.
Basically what you're saying, the paper shouldn't be too smooth and it shouldn't be too rough.
Something in between.
Okay.
Yes, yeah, that's the best choice. I think it's not only for our workshop but also in general. Some people will prefer a more smoother paper, and some people prefer rougher paper. But I think cold press paper is great, especially for beginners. It's a really good paper, not too textured, not too smooth. Great to work with.
Okay, thank you, Julia. I know you've got all sorts of paper in your paper cabinet. I've seen them all. But, well, thank you for this video and for answering
Thank you for hosting.
questions. And I look forward to your workshop. All right.
Bye bye, guys. Bye bye, Anna.